Nuclear is really the only practical way that we can switch off of carbon-based fuels, and there are new.
Janet, that's not true.
Oh boy, here we go again.
It's really not true. There are people who are salesmen and pitchmen for the nuclear power industry who are saying that.
Yeah, that's right. They're all just shills for the nuclear industry. Just like people who believe in the moon landing and the round Earth are shills for NASA. Once again, we see the intellectual company Hartmann keeps. I guess one of these shills must be Professor David Ruzick at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. Check out his channel, Illinois Energy Prof, for good information on nuclear energy.
But, nuclear power plants don't produce carbon-free energy until about the 10th year of their lifespan because so much carbon goes into mining uranium, refining uranium, transporting uranium, building the nuclear power plant.
So he's including the cost of production. The trouble is, the cost of mining and transporting and constructing all the materials for solar panels and wind turbines are even greater, especially when you factor in that nuclear reactors have a much longer lifespan, more than 3 times as long as solar panels and 4 times as long as wind turbines. When idiot politicians don't shut them down early for no reason, that is. And then there are other horrible things you get with solar and wind that you don't get with nuclear, like a lot of strip mining for rare earth metals, greater pollution in manufacturing, and much greater land use.
We can power the world right now, at scale, with solar and wind. Just those 2 technologies alone are more than enough.
No, they aren't! Not even close! They don't even have the dependability to do it in a single area. Since the sun doesn't shine all the time and the wind doesn't blow reliably, you don't have any kind of reliable baseline to work with. That's why, if you look at Germany and Sweden and everywhere else they've shut down nuclear power and gone to so-called renewables, they've ended up increasing their carbon output because they have to burn more oil, coal, and gas to make up the deficit. Whereas places like France, who have developed a strong nuclear fleet, have seen their carbon output drop.
We do not need nuclear power. The reason why Germany did their 100,000 rooftops program was so that they would not have to build 2 nuclear power plants. They ended up not building 10 nuclear power plants. They're decommissioning them. Germany is going to be nuclear free within 10 or 15 years because they're moving entirely to solar. They're getting half their electricity from solar right now.
No, they are not. They're dependent now more than they ever have been on oil and gas from Russia, as we've seen clearly with the recent Russo-Ukrainian war, which caused those prices to skyrocket.
Well, they don't have any adequate.
We actually do. We have very good storage systems. The easiest one is hydrogen.
That is absolutely ridiculous. All you're doing with hydrogen is putting even more energy into the storage medium. Not to mention the fact that you're just increasing dramatically the carbon output because of the production of the hydrogen storage systems, which all of a sudden you're ignoring. If you think about it, you can see how stupid it is. You're using electricity to make hydrogen to make electricity, when you can just use the electricity to begin with. It's made worse by the fact that more electricity is lost charging the fuel cell than you can get out of the fuel cell. There may be a use case for hydrogen fuel cells and electric cars in the distant future, but that's a situation where you have to have the electricity, the storage to electricity pathway. It's not like you can stick an electrical generator in your car, so it's the only option. Using it for power generation? That's just stupid. But as the technology stands today, all of the world's top engineers at electric car companies have said that hydrogen is anywhere from inefficient to downright stupid. And a report from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact Research showed that hydrogen fuel storage could very well keep combustion technology alive longer, ensuring continued dependence on fossil fuels, furthering greenhouse emissions, and making it harder to reach climate targets. The study's lead author said, "Such fuels as a universal climate solution are a bit of a false promise. While they are wonderfully versatile, they cannot be expected to replace fossil fuels on a large scale. This can only be achieved with direct electrification. I'm linking to a video from Real Engineering about hydrogen power. He goes over the full end-to-end production process of hydrogen power as compared to lithium batteries. Whereas the Tesla batteries could be charged for about 2 cents per kilometer, for hydrogen power it was over 17 cents. And that 8-fold difference represents the cost of energy wasted during production and charging. Even more when you consider that hydrogen has a greater energy density than lithium and should make the car more efficient. Real Engineering calculated that the final efficiency of hydrogen cells in a best-case scenario was about 30% of the energy input. But regardless of anything else, it will always be the case, thanks to the second law of thermodynamics, that you won't ever get as much electricity out of a storage medium than you put into it. It's always going to be better to just generate electricity and use it right then and there.
You create electricity either through solar power or through wind power. You run that electricity through water. It breaks the water into hydrogen and oxygen. You capture the hydrogen and you store it.
Of all the ways of manufacturing hydrogen, that's actually the least efficient, even though it's the only way to do it with renewables.
Tesla now, Elon Musk, the guy who runs Tesla, they've developed some amazing new battery technologies, so we do not need nuclear power.
That's funny because Elon Musk is one of the biggest critics of hydrogen power. He called it mind-bogglingly stupid and a load of rubbish. On Twitter, he said, "Hydrogen fuel cells make no sense." And yes, he said fuel cells. FOOLSELLS. He also said, "Hydrogen is a staggeringly dumb form of energy storage for cars. Barely worth considering it for a rocket upper stage, which is its most compelling use. Looks to me like you picked the wrong guy to hitch your wagon to."
We need to get rid of nuclear power. Nuclear power produces waste that is hot and deadly for 1,000,000 years.
Oh, for the love of Mike, even for the actinides, it's less than 1/4 of that. But if morons like you get out of the way, they can burn the actinides, including the transuranics, and then you're just left with lower-level waste that decays to background levels in about 300 years. You have not done your research. And that is the only thing he has to say about the safety of nuclear power in a video titled, "Nuclear Power Can Be Safe." Oh, really? Nuclear power, in fact, is much safer than other forms of energy. In terms of deaths per 1,000 terawatt-hour, although fossil fuels absolutely dominate in the tens of thousands, with natural gas it's 4,000, hydropower is 1,400, solar 440, wind 150, and nuclear just 90. It is by far the safest form of power we have, even safer than solar and wind. As I've repeatedly said, if you're against nuclear power, I don't want to hear one word you have to say about global warming. So thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, leave a comment, and go to donate.bogosity.tv to keep me doing what I do. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.